With Worlds 2024 come and gone, Digimon has a lot of new exciting items on the horizon. This video isn't going to cover those new premium Bandai products or some reveals from the stream, but rather this video's focus is the up-and-coming restriction list that unites the East and the West. As always, if you enjoy these types of videos, do consider liking this video, subscribing to the channel, and hitting that notification bell for more future content. Keep in mind that when Bandai does a restriction list, most of these restrictions are more likely tailored towards the Japanese meta. And one key difference here is that the West operates on a best of 3 format, while the East operates on a best of 1. Their format rewards high rolling, which means highly aggro decks become the norm. While here in the West, if you want a high roll 2 out of 3 times, it's a lot riskier. The narrative of today's video is going to look at these restrictions, but one other addition to this is to start thinking about new workarounds and problem solve how to fix up incoming decks. Some decks may have simple solutions, while others may ultimately have to be shelved for the time being. With that, let's dive right into the list. For the first restriction update, it's going to be a brand new ban to the Digimon card game. Mega Digimon Fusion was the first banned card due to how abusable it was with Lilith Loop. And like looping, a second card joins this card in the form of the tamer, Matt Ishida. It's because of Purple Hybrid that this tamer could be cycled repeatedly to grab back Duskmon to throw the combo again and again. Inevitably, this could deck your opponent out. But when you ask, is there a good replacement for Matt Ishida? The unfortunate thing is, there really isn't. Because of this, Purple Hybrid will have to build back into conventional builds, and will have to use cards like Glaive Memory Boost and Calling from Darkness to cycle back Digimon back to the hand. Again, extra steps that will likely put it out of competitive range, because nothing truly is comparable to the tamer. For the second restriction update, everybody knew and probably felt that another pair restriction was going to enter the game. Honestly, no matter how you looked at Shoto Kazuma gifting blocker and piercing generically to any Digimon, that was an oversight. And while many players argued that an errata could help, I do want to define that erratas should only ever be strictly used as a means to fix translation errors, which was something that happened in EX3. When changing the effect of a card outright, this is something that Yu-Gi-Oh! Does when it comes to rebalancing cards, which is the wrong definition of what a true errata is. For players who played Mother Shoto as a combo, more than likely you'll have to revert to previous black blocker variants if you want to gift blocker to Mother, even if it's temporarily for 1 turn. But when you get to the nitty-gritty limits, oh boy, it was overall expected, and some unexpected. Blinding Ray and Jack Ray join Hammer Spark in the limited category, though I do find it interesting that Gravity Crush is still allowed to roam free. While it's true that Blinding Ray does not have a security effect like Gravity Crush, this option card is pretty abusable in the like still of Magnamon X. Though to be fair, if the memory aspect isn't important, and your whole purpose is to trash security to maintain Magnamon X's immunity, there is Acid Injection from BT6, which can perform the same effect of trashing his security, while simultaneously DP reducing your opponent's Digimon. Though is one memory worth it, becomes the question. Jack Raid effectively eliminates decks like Lilith Loop, and of course another supplemental piece of Purple Hybrid. Though now at a status of 1, does it become a staple in purple decks much like Calling from Darkness? If your deck trashes consistently enough, I'd say so. There aren't any other options that does what Jack Raid does, though there are cards that can supplement your memory when they're trash, like Nidhoggmon. And conventionally, if you're looking for an option that can gain you 2 memory out of security, Darkness Claw hilariously is the only other card that comes to mind for purple, but its main effect isn't exactly a home run out of the park. Next up on the restriction list is another card that I'm sure a lot of people were not surprised about, and it's of course MirageGaogamon. MirageGaogamon rose to fame in the West and was consistently played for a long time. And although we haven't seen the explanations yet for Bandai's reasoning for this card, it was always coming back in formats and was very abusable in decks like Galaxy Loop, effectively preventing players from even playing the game. For Mirage players, if you're wanting to be a purist, all other variants will cost you 4 memory in regards to Digivolution, though I like BT13 because it can spin back tamers to the opponent's hand. While not as effective as the BT11 variant, spinning back a tamer can trigger your memory gain effects of the inheritables, and even set up your own Thomas Norstein for the burst mode play. Surprise item number 1 for me on this list was BT17 Fenriloogamon. BT17 is still relatively newer, and this is one of the newest cards to get hit amongst all the cards on the list. Due to being able to play Kazuchimon when you Digivolve into it, this effectively set up Takami Kazuchi's one-turn kill strategy, While there aren't any good replacements for this card, there are quite a few ways to adjust your strategy. First, you will lean more heavily on Luga and Lugarmon from BT14. If you can set up Fenriloogamon in play, by simply playing Kazujimon you're able to pull off the entire DNA sequence. Set your opponent to 3, then gain 1 and they go to 2. Because of end of turn effects in which you play Eiji Nagasumi, you would then claim back 2 additional memory to keep your turn at 0 instead. The only downside is you lose out on the unsuspend with Soul Lugarmon. However, there is one test I've found so far that amusingly works. Kuzuhamon is another component that saw a lot of play in Tau Loop, and considering you're able to play out Taumon Ace from Kuzuhamon after using any option card, does keep the combo going into Ruin mode. Not only did it play out Taumon Ace, but it provided the color source you needed in order to use Kaiser Nail. Hilariously, if you wanted to, you could switch from Kuzuhamon to the Tsukiyamon Maid mode, because this does ignore the color requirement, meaning Kaiser Nail is always alive. But again, the only downside here is that you missed out on the ability to play out Taumon Ace for free, instead of having to rely on option cards to do it. Interestingly, looking at the meta in the West, Ancient Greymon and Ancient Garurumon hadn't been doing too much work, so these next 2 restrictions weren't on my radar. Promo Agunimon and Promo Lobomon both got hit to 1, and really if you're looking for a replacement, they technically already do with their BT17 counterparts and just require extra steps with their Beast Mode spirits in the sources as well. But the last and final restriction for this newly unveiled list was Starter Deck Stingmon. Interestingly, Imperial Dramon is one of the more meta-relevant decks, but out of all the cards, Stingmon is the least used level 4 right now in the West. I believe the justification for this one, pending the drop on Bandai's official website, is mainly attributed to its ability to draw 1 multiple times in a turn. And considering with Demi Vmon, Vmon, and this Stingmon, you could be drawing 5 cards with just 2 attacks. In the high roll environment of Japan's best of 1 format, I can see the justification. But in the West, we lean more into Togemogumon, Lydramon, and the Memory Gainer Stingmon. And while true Starter Deck Gabumon can theoretically do the same thing, Imperial Dramon decks also have the advantage of utilizing Partition, having jamming, and powerful option cards like Return to the Primogenitor for protection. But with the conclusion of this list, nothing came off of it. Meaning if you were expecting Promoware Garurumon, Greymon X, or Greymon and more, it ain't happening. With a brand new format to explore, and the unification of the East and West, it's time to get cooking. What were your thoughts on the restriction list, my points on substitutions and direction to take some decks, and what are you building for the up and coming new format? Let me know in the comments as I start diving into some new content this week. This is DIGI-PANDA, logging out.